Welcome to episode 7 of DB Homes for Hope, where we take you from being a distressed renter to a confident homeowner.
I'm in my new era. I'm better in my new era. I'm better in my new.
We have a special guest today, my pastor, Harold Bear, but also he's a sociologist, so he's seen a myriad of things, and I want you all, I'm going to interview him today so you can benefit too, because I get to hang out with him all the time. So in today's episode, I'm going to ask him questions about some of the things he's seen as a sociologist. He has been in the ministry for over 60 years. I haven't even been alive that long. So that's pretty impressive. So we're going to tug at his brain so we can hear things that will help you increase your credit score to 650 and above. Yes, knowing how people work, our habits will help us stay in the black. How we can reduce our debt to income ratio. The last 2 episodes, we were talking about our credit report as an adult report card. On this episode, we're going to go a deep dive and some of the things that maybe people have that have engaged with that hasn't been fruitful for them. But he's also going to tell us some stories that have been quite raving that people have done because they stewarded money well. So he's not going to try to get your tithe. You're already in the process of doing that because we've already talked about that. To be a cheerful giver is a wonderful thing. And you've got what? You've got money. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Married, have senior pastor 44 years, and also been a social worker for the Commonwealth of Virginia, mental health, done police consultation with criminology and police science. But right now, living in Tennessee, and we're consultants. We travel and we give ourselves away, my wife and I.
Yes, he goes around the country and the world because he's been to Scotland recently. He'll tell you a little bit about that, on how he's helping people, particularly ministers, people who are leaders in roles that they actually help in the home, help families stay strong. Because he talked about mental health. Finances is a component that will help our mental health or put stress on our mental health. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, we know. This is curious. They say that 1/3 of the New Testament deals with money.
Oh, yes. I believe it.
And we know that finances is a crucial component of a happy marriage. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to have a happy marriage. It's difficult to have a happy bride. If the bills are not paid, there's no groceries or refrigerator. So as a pastor for 44 years, senior pastor for 44 years, we taught finance classes. Mm-hmm. We had Dave Ramsey courses in church. You know that.
Yes, Financial Peace University.
And, one of the things that I ask people, I said, who's your banker? And I said, no. I didn't ask you the bank. Who can you name in the bank that knows your face? Because you can't really build local credit if you don't know people. You got to know people. That's a crucial component, Davina.
Yes.
It's that working relationship with other people to learn how to do better. And I say, so you don't have to be really smart if you're smart enough to know some really smart people.
That's right. So who you know matters. Who you connect with, communication. Birds of a feather do flock together. He talked about, happy. He said wife, but I'm going to take a step further. Happy spouse does make a happy house. And one of the top 3 reasons that some people divorce is because of finances. And we don't want that to be something that you're struggling with because it's solvable. And we're going to teach you how to get that 650 and above credit score, to stay low in debt, hopefully to the point of getting 0% in terms of your debt, even paying off your mortgage.
Davina, I saw through the years people who struggle with their finances buy things really cheap and they replace them every 6 months or a year. And it didn't take long for me to think it through and think, now, wait a minute. Instead of buying a $10 ironing board, if I paid $30 for an ironing board, I'd have it 10 years later. So you learn to be prudent in things. And I'm at a stage of life, I can afford a candy bar. Mm-hmm. But I actually stop and go in and I say, $2 for a candy bar? No way. No way. I'll eat a cracker. And so it's not a matter of can I afford this? Is it where you want to put your money?
Right.
Is it a good investment for your body and for your future?
So did you all hear that? It's quality. So why buy something several times when you can buy it one time and it'll last, that has longevity? We want quality things. We've talked a number of times of getting A's in the 4 F's. Faith, which you can't disconnect your faith. It's a component of who you are. It's your character. Faith, family, and friends. Who you hang with does matter. So he talked about getting the relationship with the banker. The banker, some people who can hold you accountable in terms of your money. So faith, family, and friends. Fitness, putting good things in your body so that you can have longevity, so you can have energy. So this is all about stewardship. And then the last F, it is finances, but that's not the foundation. Those top three are the building blocks: faith, family, and friends, fitness, then finances. Stewarding the small things will help us steward the big things. What do you say about that, Pastor?
Well, I want to come back to the faith, first of all, and say that at age 14, I gave my heart to the Lord.
Praise
that
the
was
Lord.
one of the best things I ever did. The best thing I ever did. And my wife gave her heart to the Lord when she was age 5. So our entire lives are wrapped around our faith. Everything begins and ends with our faith.
That's right.
So we pray about our finances. And Davina, I've discovered that if people don't know how to be generous, and you've got to be generous and enjoy being generous, and you can't be generous if you don't have something to give.
Right.
And so I found that it's impossible to really be happy if you don't have that quotient in your life, that element in your life. So it's worth to me not buying some things to have money to give or to make a difference in the lives of others, to contribute where I want to contribute.
It is better to give, essentially, than to receive. He's saying he's going to pause some of the things that he would normally purchase so that he will have enough to give away. There's a lot of joy with giving. A couple episodes ago, I talked to about giving up some of my jewelry. I enjoy jewelry, but not more than I enjoy seeing the smiles on people's faces when they receive it.
Yeah.
It's a gift that keeps on giving. And it's much better than me hoarding a whole bunch of stuff, but actually helping other people. Giving when people are in need. Many times silently, so they can't come back and say, well, she did this. I want them to say, the Lord, look what the Lord has done. I mean, tell us about that. I mean, some of the things that you've seen people do, because you've traveled all over the world, really.
Well, you should be shocked at convenience stores. Just sit outside and watch people come out of convenience stores and see that most of what they carry out, they don't need. It's not important to it will not help their future economy. It will hurt their future economy. It will hurt their bodies, and their money's gone. And I tell them, I said, now, wait a minute. If you spend $10 on something, it's not just $10. It's $10 after you paid federal tax, after you paid for your gas to go to work,
Right.
to earn your money, and after you've tithed. Now you got $10 left. And so that becomes $13 or $14
That's
perhaps.
right.
And so people say, well, I made $500 this week. And I said, no.
Right.
How much did you bring home this week?
So it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that counts. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, you only brought home $363.
Right. Because Uncle Sam got his portion.
So you should spend based on your 363 and save, not 500.
Right. That's exactly right.
You didn't bring 500 home.
Right.
So, in the course of pastoring, one of my great joys was to help people buy a home.
Yes. He's talking my language now.
And
Home
so
ownership.
I've actually sat with people and helped them learn how to leverage and to talk to their banker and to talk to realtors and to take from a Jim Walters home, move into a $350,000 brick home.
Now, see, I don't know what a Jim Walters home is.
It's just
Like a
it's
starter
something that
home?
was built back.
Okay.
It was a starter home. It was just basically frame. It was just very cheaply built. It was a thing back in time. Just look up Jim Walter Homes Historic, and probably didn't have any insulation in any of the inside walls. It was
Right.
just a shell,
Okay.
and they were living there. And then 3 or 4 years later, they thought it was going to take them 20, 30 years. I said, no, there's a way to do this.
Right. So consistency and persistence. If you're paying your bills on time, which we talked about in the last 2 episodes, your credit score will go up, your debt will go down, and your savings will go up. So then you're able to move from being that distressed renter, or even from your starter home to something more luxurious. It doesn't have to be luxury. It does not. It has to be what fits your family. Remember, we're only in competition with ourselves. So having more doesn't mean that you are happier or more joyful. What you do with what you have is important. We talked about giving some to others. We talked about buying quality. So what is your perspective, your role in the lives of your people that you engage with? How might you encourage them to be financially responsible as they receive?
I wanted people to understand that if you don't know how to save, then you can't. It is something you have to learn.
Right. It's learned behavior.
One of the things that I practiced in my life when we were really, really living close, if I did something, a side job, back in the days when I did side jobs, or maybe I taught a college class,
right,
and I brought in maybe 2,000 in 3 months or something, I didn't count that as part of my family budget. I put any extra money like that, I called it extra gravy, I put it aside.
Right.
And that's then what I could leverage to do something else.
So he used his side hustle to help create wealth for his family.
Right.
He didn't take that additional income
and run off to the store and spend it.
Right. Right.
Or trade cars.
All of those things. So we may not be where we want to be, but what I heard him say, and what hopefully you've been hearing me say, is that you are in the driver's seat. You can change your situation financially by giving some away, keeping some for yourself, and not living on all of your funds. So that's I really appreciate this. How have you encouraged your people that you deal with? How have you encouraged them to see the Lord's provision in their lives? Because that's the difference between a steward and an owner.
The two sides to this. One, if a person's single, they have to bring the discipline to themselves.
Right.
And they have to understand that they cannot expect the Lord's favor if they don't favor the Lord. It is a two-way street.
Right, I believe that.
But again, this is a matter of generosity. The Lord is not just, I'm not throwing money up to heaven and it just disappearing in the sky. What I'm doing is tithing and giving in meaningful ways that change our world for better. So that's very important in terms of understanding that.
Even in your singlehood, your singleness, accountability. So in a marriage, there's a built-in accountability partner, your spouse. In our singlehood, it's important that we actually seek out people who could help us, people who can maintain confidence,
right?
Because loose lips sink ships. So we don't want people who have loose lips. But having someone that will give us a double check, because we don't want to be foolish with the money that the Lord has given us.
Yeah. Now back to the marriage then.
Right.
The way that Layla and I have practiced it, sometimes I will give Layla money. I come into some money,
right,
and I give it to her, and I say, "Don't tell me what you do with this.
Okay.
This is yours personally, okay?" And that's a good feeling for a wife, to have some money she can do with what she wants. Now, this is if you have a good, healthy relationship, because Layla never wastes it. So I trust that. At the same time, you have to have your then common goals that you have to discuss. And you say, no, this is our real budget. This is where we live. This is who we are.
So he's giving you a glimpse into next episode because we're going to talk about the 10, 10, 10, 50, 20 in next episode. But we've already talked about giving. We've talked about keeping some. We've also talked about trust and character because what he said about Layla, his wife, and my mother-in-law is that he could trust that she was going to steward well what they had.
Absolutely.
He didn't have to worry, but there's a partnership there. There was communication.
Some of the flip of that is then we've been married 58 years. So in 58 years of marriage, what we do is we're willing to be tight. And we don't consider it a sacrifice.
Right.
So that sometimes we can do something and really enjoy it. And so I don't think some couples ever learn that. Some people ever, they just all the time, if they have money, they spend it. But it's such a pleasure when you say, no, we're going to really be careful for the next 6 months so that we can take a 3-day trip.
Right.
So you kind of give yourself a little bonus that doesn't really go into your savings, doesn't go into your retirement fund or anything
none
like
of those
that.
things.
But it gives you a little bump in life.
Right. And so in episode 8, we're going to talk about, like I was saying, the 10, 10, 10, 50, 20, so that you're comfortable living on 50% of your income. And so you're constantly stewarding well. It's what you do. But back to getting A's in those 4 F's. These are the foundational things. They're building blocks so that you can freely give with joy, like Pastor has said, so that you can live comfortably. Because we're not asking you to count every cup of coffee that you drink. We're not. But what we are saying is stewarding well gives you freedom. A budget is not something to hold you back. A budget is to help you have boundaries, and it gives you freedom. There's freedom and joy in having boundaries, because then you can do those things in your community where there's a need, you can meet it. You're not singing that song, I owe, so off to work I go, living so far in the margin that you can't help other people. I'm so just thrilled to have you today because you've seen people in their highs and their lows as a sociologist. And some of the stories you can't share. But there are some things that I want you to give us a good story that someone was maybe living in the margin and they came back because they used these godly principles to win with money.
A lady came to church and she was sleeping in a car.
Oh, goodness.
Just discombobulated with life, if I can use the word. But she came to church, found her way with the Lord, developed relationships. And when she moved from Covenant Church, it was because she had graduated from the University of Virginia and had a job as a registered nurse, this is over like 25 years ago, making $50,000 a year, like 25,000 years ago.
Wow.
And so that's just one story. I could tell you hundreds of stories.
Yes.
We pastored one church for 39 years and saw people change. And one final comment. You can't really climb the mountain if you don't know how. And that means you either need to be a person, and very few people are capable of this, of being self-learned. Being a self-learner, laying in the library or staying in the library,
Right.
or taking courses somewhere. So if you can't find them at college, can't afford them, find somebody that's giving free classes.
Right.
But you have to learn how to face life and to deal with finances.
Well, I didn't ask him to say that, but I appreciate it because I would love to coach you all. You can go to dbhomesforhope.com and I will teach you how to increase your credit score to 650 and above, how to reduce your debt to 43% down to 0%. And the third thing is increase your savings to 3 months of expenses, because I want you to win with money. So you can answer the question, got money? Yes, we do.